We have here a 2004 Jeep Sahara. The rear differential case is getting pulled out so we can get more traction with a PowerTrax Grip Pro. While this example happens within a TJ, PowerTrax Grip Pro will install similarly in a CJ, LJ, XJ, or JK. PowerTrax always recommends that installers read the provided instructional guide before beginning an install with our limited slip differentials. Correct installation can be the difference between a safe extended product life or premature failure. Raise and safely support the vehicle, then remove the rear wheels. Drain the differential housing and remove the differential cover. Unbolt the brake caliper. Never let a caliper hang from the brake line. Always secure the caliper to the frame with an S-hook or cable ties so that there is slack in the brake line. Remove the rotors and axle shafts. For this model, that involves rotating the axle flange around to unbolt the 4 retainer nuts. If necessary, use a slide hammer to remove the axle shafts from the axle housing. Repeat the same steps on the driver's side. When the same ring and pinion is being reused, it is very important to measure and record the current ring gear backlash before continuing disassembly. It is also very important to mark the carrier caps so they can be reinstalled in their exact location and orientation during reassembly. Only then proceed to unbolt the carrier caps. Remove the differential case. The differential shims for this particular application are located between the differential cups and the axle housing. Separate by side and save these shims for reference of the starting thickness for each side's shim stacks during reinstallation. Place the old differential case on a padded or wooden workbench. Unbolt the ring gear from the old case. Knock the ring gear loose with a punch or non-metallic hammer. Discard the used ring gear bolts. We recommend using new differential case bearings. If the old bearings must be reused, carefully remove them with the proper tools. Inspect and clean the bearings. If there are any imperfections or they do not roll smoothly, the old bearings should not be reused. Install the differential case bearing cones onto the bearing hubs of the Grip Pro using the proper tools. Check to make sure the bearings are fully seated. Lightly file the surfaces where the ring gear will sit. The goal is not to score the surfaces, but to ensure an even seat. Slide the ring gear into place on the Grip Pro. Use new ring gear bolts. Make sure thread locker is applied. First tighten, then torque the ring gear bolts to the ring gear manufacturer's specifications. Measure out new differential shims from an installation kit. A good place to start is with the same shim thickness that were removed during initial disassembly. Place the differential case in the housing with the decided differential bearing shims on each side. The carrier needs to have preload while still maintaining backlash between the ring and pinion. This means that there should be some resistance at the carrier bearings when being reinstalled. A rule of thumb is that the carrier will require some massaging with a dead blow hammer to reinstall. Conversely, if there is no backlash, remove the differential case and adjust the shim packs by removing several thousandths of shim thickness from the ring gear side and adding the same amount to the opposite side. Once visible backlash can be observed, place the carrier caps back in their original positions and snug the bolts. This is a good time to rotate the assembly several times to make sure it is smooth and that there's no binding. Measure the backlash with a dial indicator. When the ring and pinion are being reused, proper backlash is when the dial reads the same amount you measured before the differential was disassembled. In cases where a new ring and pinion are being installed, follow the manufacturer's instructions for backlash specifications. If the backlash is outside of the appropriate mark for your build, adjust the differential bearing shims and retry. To increase backlash, remove shim thickness from the ring gear side and add the equal amount of shim thickness to the opposite side. To decrease backlash, add shim thickness to the ring gear side and remove an equal amount of shim thickness from the opposite side. Always check backlash after changing the carrier shims. When backlash is set, secure and torque the carrier caps to manufacturer's specification. Slide the axle shafts back into their housing. Rotate around the axle shaft flange to secure the retainer nuts. Return the rotors to the wheel they were removed from and reattach the brake calipers. Verify that all hardware is torqued to their manufacturer's specification. Use the kit-supplied sealant or gasket on the differential cover before bolting back onto the housing. Fill the differential case with the appropriate fresh differential fluid. The PowerTrax Grip Pro limited slip differential uses helical cut gears to transfer power to the wheel with the most traction. Always use an 80W90 mineral petroleum-based gear oil with at least a GL5 rating. Synthetic oil and oils that contain friction modifiers are not recommended.